You wake up at 6 in the morning to an alarm. You sit in traffic for 45 minutes. You spend 8 hours under fluorescent lights doing things a spreadsheet will summarize. And then you go home and feel vaguely guilty about not going to the gym. This is the deal. This is what civilization bought us. And yet, somehow, we still say things like, imagine how terrible it must have been to live back then. Back when? Like it was obviously worse, but was it? Here's the question nobody actually sits with. What was the day-to-day experience of being an early human? Not the dramatic parts, not the mammoth hunts or the tribal warfare. The Tuesday afternoon, the unremarkable morning, the regular, ordinary texture of being alive 100,000 years ago. Because when researchers actually looked at this, what they found didn't match the story we've been telling ourselves. Let's start with the biggest assumption, that early humans were constantly exhausted, constantly on the edge of death, every waking hour consumed by survival. In 1966, anthropologist Marshall Sahlins published a study that quietly dismantled this idea. He had spent years studying the Kungsan people of the Kalahari, one of the last groups living something close to the original human lifestyle. What he found was stunning. They worked an average of 15 to 20 hours a week, not a day, a week. The rest of the time they rested, talked, played, slept whenever they felt like it. Sahlins called them the original affluent society, not because they had abundance of things, because they had abundance of time. We traded the one thing ancient humans had more of than us, time, and called it progress. Compare that to the average modern worker. When you add commuting, meal prep, household admin, and the psychological overhead of always being reachable, most people are functionally busy for 60 to 70 hours a week. We got agriculture, cities, and the internet. We lost 50 hours. Here is something that tends to surprise people. Early human skeletons are, by most measures, better than ours. Bioarchaeologists studying pre-agricultural remains consistently find the same things: strong, dense bones, low rates of degenerative joint disease, excellent dental health, straight spines, broad jaws, evidence of powerful musculature across both sexes. Then agriculture happened. Within a few generations, the skeletons get shorter. Teeth start rotting, bone density drops, spine problems appear. The transition from hunter-gatherer to farmer is written in bones as a story of physical decline. Not because farming is evil, but because farming meant monoculture diets, repetitive labor, and the beginning of chronic stress. Evolutionary biologist Daniel Lieberman has spent years documenting how many of our most common modern ailments, lower back pain, flat feet, myopia, impacted wisdom teeth, are not ancient problems. They are new problems. Problems created by chairs, shoes, screens, and processed food. The early human body used the way it was designed to be used, mostly worked. There's a concept in psychology called allostatic load. It's the cumulative wear on the body from chronic stress, not the sharp, immediate stress of a predator. The slow, grinding, never-ending stress of mortgages, deadlines, social comparison, and the ambient sense that you are always slightly behind. That kind of stress is relatively new, and it is, biologically speaking, catastrophic. Cortisol is designed for short bursts. You see a lion, cortisol floods your system, you run, cortisol clears. Problem solved. What cortisol is not designed for is a 30-year mortgage, a performance review, and 200 unread emails. Simultaneously, the line was terrifying. The mortgage is killing us. Early man only had to worry about the lion. Early humans faced acute stress. Real, physical, immediate danger that resolved one way or another quickly. Then it was over, and they went back to sitting around the fire. Their nervous systems got to reset. Ours, increasingly, never do. Robin Dunbar, the anthropologist best known for discovering that human social groups naturally cap at around 150 people, argues something more interesting. That number isn't arbitrary. It's the maximum size of a group in which every member can know every other member personally, track their relationships, remember their history, and maintain genuine trust. 150 people is a community. Beyond that, you need institutions, laws, and enforcement. Before that number, you just need each other. Early humans lived in those groups. They knew everyone they would ever know. There were no strangers. There was no anonymity. Every person in your life was someone whose face you'd seen, whose children you knew, whose loss you'd grieve. The loneliness epidemic, which now affects roughly 1 in 3 adults, would have been essentially incomprehensible to them. Loneliness, by the way, is not a soft problem. Research has found that chronic loneliness is as damaging to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. We did not evolve for isolation. We evolved for exactly the kind of constant, face-to-face, embedded community that early humans lived inside every single day. This is the one that tends to get dismissed, so let's take it seriously. Early humans lived in a world saturated with meaning. Every animal, every plant, every weather pattern, every birth and death happened inside a web of story and significance. The world was alive. It spoke. It had intention. That framework, whatever its relationship to literal truth, gave every moment a context. Psychologist Martin Seligman identified meaning as one of the 5 core pillars of human well-being. Not comfort, not safety, meaning. The sense that what you are doing matters, that your existence is connected to something larger than yourself. Studies of hunter-gatherer societies consistently show high scores on this dimension. Not because life was easy, but because it was legible. The world made sense. Your role in it was clear. Contrast that with what researchers call the existential vacuum of modern life. The quiet, nagging sense that you could be doing something else, something more, something real. The peculiar modern anxiety of having everything you need and still feeling like something is missing. None of this is an argument for going back. Childbirth was lethal. Infections killed people who would now survive with modern medicine. Violence between groups was real and brutal. Life expectancy was short, and the end often was not peaceful. The idea of romanticizing early human life is not just naive, it's dishonest. But there's a different mistake. Assuming that because our world is more sophisticated, our lives are unambiguously better. That more technology means more well-being. That more choice means more freedom. That more connectivity means less loneliness. The data does not consistently support that story. We solved most of the problems early humans faced. We invented most of the problems we face now. What the research actually shows is something more complicated. Early humans were not primitive versions of us waiting to be upgraded. They were fully human, with bodies that worked, communities that held them, time that was theirs, and a world that made sense. They had problems we've solved. We have problems they never imagined. The ledger is not as lopsided as we like to think. So the next time you're sitting in traffic, staring at your inbox, feeling vaguely behind on everything and everyone, it might be worth remembering. There was a version of this life where you'd already be done for the day by noon, where everyone you loved was within walking distance, where no one had ever heard of a mortgage, a performance review, or a phone notification. They had lions, but they had the afternoon.